These Disney medals, they clang so much. Man. You know, it is sadly time to wrap up talking about the Disneyland Half Marathon. So today's video, I am just going to like kind of rapid fire answer a couple questions that I've been getting since I ran the half marathon. I am working all day from home today, so I'm just going to kind of like pop in and out and answer some questions that I have been getting asked. So if you are curious about the Disneyland Half Marathon, if you're curious about Run Disney, my experience coming back into running after a 5-year injury, and I'll also do a little bit of a like merch haul because people have been wanting to see what I got. Somehow I've been home for like 10 days and I'm still cleaning up from this trip. I got all the laundry done pretty quickly, but I haven't put it all away. So that's what I'm doing with my first work break of the day. So before I get back into working on my computer and editing some photos, I'm hanging my clothes and getting them put away into the closet. I think obviously a big question that you get asked all the time when you do something like this is like, what was your favorite part? And I mean, was it running through all the lands of Disneyland and California Adventure? Kind of. That's a really unique thing to have happen. It's not something that you get to do every day. And it was really, really cool just to be like running around all these attractions and things that I love. So that was definitely a favorite part, but I don't think it was my absolute favorite part. Honestly, my favorite part was just getting to run a half marathon again. Something I never thought I'd get to do again. I really, really thought this like knee injury was never going to allow me to like train to this degree again. The other thing about this was it wasn't brutal. Like, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was totally doable. And I felt good the whole time. There was never a point where I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to finish this race. And that had crossed my mind a few times too. I was just worried that I wouldn't actually be able to finish. I was worried that something would start hurting, that something would go wrong, and I would have to pull myself. And I didn't want to vocalize that fear, but that definitely existed. And another favorite thing for me was I downloaded this app called Rally. The essence of the app is that people can sign up for a mile of your race. So I had 13 miles, so there were 13 slots available, and they could leave me up to a 1-minute message. So you start it when you start the race, and it has a GPS tracker, and when you hit that mile marker, the message just plays. So I kept one AirPod in my ear. I hardly listened to music. I was just to like hear these messages. You know, I had shared the link a few times and I'd seen that a few messages had gotten recorded, and I was like, awesome. Like those are really going to pick me up when they play. That is so great. What I didn't know was I have to assume this happened on two fronts. I'm not really sure what happened because the people who love me keep secrets, but it appears that my sister and one of my friends shared the link again, or more like in a text message I wasn't in, because on race morning, all of the miles had messages. So I had a message for every mile of my race, and it took the second one for me to realize that I was going to tear up and cry at basically every message I got. I think those messages, the encouragement, the kindness, the cheering on from so many people in my life, I mean, that had to be my favorite part. So special, so great. Okay, and then another question that kind of like went into that was like, was there anything that I didn't love about the race? And I don't know, maybe it's like the rose-colored glasses of like, it's been 2 weeks, but there's not a lot that I can think of that I didn't love about the race. I didn't mind the crowds. I didn't mind how big of a race it was. I didn't mind the tiered starting. I didn't mind that the race started 5 minutes late. None of these things bother me. So there wasn't a lot that I didn't love about the race. The biggest struggle I have whenever it comes to races, especially like a more crowded race, is I just wish people would move over when they're walking. Everyone's running their own race. A lot of people are running intervals, and I know you're not walking for a long period of time, but it's really hard when almost everybody in front of you is walking. And so there's nothing you can do as a person to like run. So there are a lot of times that I was like forced to slow down because there was no way for me to go any faster. if that was the only thing I didn't like about the race, that's pretty darn good. It's lunchtime. Nachos. A very common question I got was, what was the course like? The course, we started on like the far side of Disneyland's parking lots. I guess technically we were near the Toy Story lot, but I could not get my bearings. So from there, we started on like the streets of Anaheim, right outside of like Disneyland's entrance, like where the buses and Ubers would drop you off, and we ran about a mile on streets, just kind of coming straight and then back around so that California Adventure's backside was here. We then dropped into backstage of California Adventure right by my hotel. We stayed at Pixar Place. So we turned in, ran backstage for a little bit, and then popped out at Radiator Springs, close to Radiator Springs Racers. So like the first thing we saw was like the mountains of Radiator Springs Racers. We ran up Radiator Springs, out to Pixar Pier, around Pixar Pier, to Grizzly Peak, to Avengers Campus, and then into, is it like Hollywood? I always forget what that, where like Animation Academy and the Mike and Sully ride are, that area. Popped out, and then we were, went down the main street and out of California Adventure. So we touched all the lands in California Adventure, ran into Disneyland, we ran up Main Street, into Tomorrowland. Out of Tomorrowland, we kind of like touched into Fantasyland by Teacups, and then we ran out backstage by It's a Small World. We ran backstage for a little bit, and then we popped back into the park at Toontown, and back into Fantasyland, through the castle, into Frontierland, to Adventureland, to Galaxy's Edge. And then we took like a backstage exit out of Galaxy's Edge. And from there, we left Disney property and ran on the streets of Anaheim. The Anaheim part, like I've been saying, I think I've said a few times, not bad because I'm used to running like city streets and that kind of vibe when I run a half marathon. And I think the only unfun part was right after we left Disney to get to the roads we'd be running on, we had to run over a highway overpass, which is a hill. And then we didn't really have any hills again until like miles 11 and 12, which people didn't love. It's just the nature of running on roads, running in the world, really. A full flat course is pretty hard to come by. But it was a good course. I think it'll bother me that that drawer was open the whole time. We'll see. Was staying on property worth it? This is a hard question to answer because I think that if it's a Disney World race, even as someone who's just a spectator, yes. But was staying on property worth it for Disneyland? I think it was worth it for me, but that doesn't mean you need to do it at all. And I understand they're about to go on hiatus, so it'll be a while before this matters. But there are so many hotels on the correct side of where this race started, at least, that it's almost more worth it if it's just for the logistics of running your half marathon. It's more worth it to stay at a good neighbor hotel than one of the Disney resorts, because the Disney resorts are on the other side of downtown Disney. So much further away than a lot of the hotels people were staying at. So for the logistics of the race, it's not really worth it. But for going to Disneyland and wanting to have like a really great weekend at Disney, there were so many great parts about staying on property that I love. You have a private entrance into California Adventure through the Grand Californian, and then you can take the monorail and be in Tomorrowland rather than the main gate when you go to Disneyland. And there were just like a couple, you don't get a ton of perks staying on property at Disneyland, but you do get some. The biggest one being that you get to use one Lightning Lane multi-experience pass, which basically means without needing to make a reservation, without needing to buy multi-pass or Lightning Lane multi-pass for the whole trip or the whole day of the park, you can use one Lightning Lane at any ride that isn't like a single pass. Because we had this resort guest perk, We were able to just walk straight to Space Mountain when we were in Tomorrowland and like scan in for a lightning lane. So I love that little perk that they give their resort guests. And I just like being surrounded by cast members. I just love the Disney guest experience. It's one of the reasons why I keep going back to Disney parks. And I just think cast members make Disneyland and Disney World what they are. But I don't think you need to stay on property at Disneyland. There are so many hotels within walking distance of the park that it's an expense you don't need to spend, but if it's something you enjoy doing, I definitely think staying on property just elevates your full Disney experience. All right, let me show you what I got. The race-specific merchandise sold out really quickly. Like, I went to the expo the second day and basically everything was gone. Some people think that resellers came in there and bought everything. I'm kind of more in the camp of I think Run Disney didn't order enough product, and maybe they're not used to Disneyland being a very popular merchandise race, or just this felt like a whole different world knowing that they were going to hiatus. So there just wasn't enough product for what people wanted. Did not get the one thing I had hoped to buy, which was a pin. They do a metal replica pin. I had hoped to get that. I had hoped to start making that a thing as I do more Disney races. But they were sold out, so I didn't get that. I'm not that disappointed because what I did come home with, I'm very happy about. So let's go through the stack sitting next to me. I did end up with one race merchandise item, and this was because people buy things and then return them before they leave. So I did not buy these at the expo. I bought these the day after the race. We found them in my the Pixar Place merchandise shop. We were in there for something else, and all of a sudden they just had a little rack of some returned items. And so I got these cute pants with the logo on them. And the backside has like the icons of the weekend. At the expo, I did get a Spirit jersey. It's not race specific. It is a Run Disney Spirit jersey. I should be further back, but you're getting the essence of it. I actually really like it. It's blue, it's tie-dye-esque, it's real cute. It's some of my favorite colors right here. So love that. I'm wearing that in some of the vlog if you caught it. We got our race shirt, long sleeve, purple. It fits well. It's a Brooks shirt. It's just, I'm not one to wear a busy race shirt ever. But we'll see if I keep it. If we're gonna talk about something I definitely didn't need, it's gonna be these. So these are a Brooks Adrenaline sneaker. They do a race specific sneaker. You see that? It's so cute. The colors are so cute. I haven't worn Brooks in a really long time. I slipped these Adrenalines on and went, wow, these are amazing. So they were not in the budget. They were not on the shopping list, but they came home with me. With those shoes, I got like a little pack of like shoe tags. They're kind of like patches. So one that says 13.1 and one that has the Disney 70 on it. I gave the rest of them away because they had basically one for every race like this. So whatever the icon was for the race, and it said like 5K, 10K, Dumbo. I gave those away. Kept the ones for me. And then you'll see these in a lot of my video. I got custom ears made. You can do this if you buy these ears. They're the like plain black leather Mickey ears. And then you can go in the parks. They have places where they do like customizing art, usually for like ornaments and things, but they will customize ears, and this is becoming a little bit more popular, so you're gonna see it a little bit more. There was a long line. I was not the only person with this idea, but you get to like pick out the designs, what you want it to say. I got them to say 13.1, put some fireworks on there, pick the colors. I'm like obsessed. So I'm gonna get like a little ear display situation going on in my office probably. And then I'll probably wear them again for other races because I think they're so cute. Okay, and last but not least, the medal. Look at it. It moves. But yeah, super fun. We're gonna hang that up. That's everything I got from the race. Another fun question that I got a lot was, did I hand out friendship bracelets? And while I came back with a decent amount, I sure did. Something like that, like, it's kind of fun in concept, but then it's harder in reality of like having the courage and not being shy and actually offering bracelets to people. I couldn't go to any like meetups where people were trading, and honestly, I didn't really want to bring bracelets home. I just wanted to like give bracelets to people as like encouragement. I don't know, it just felt like one of those things where I could like tell a stranger I was rooting for them. And I just carried the bracelets around basically all weekend. I kept them on my bag. I brought them everywhere I went. On Saturday when I was in the parks, we were waiting in line to do the Davy Crockett canoes, and the two people behind me were talking about their like experience doing the races, what they were doing. And one woman had said she was doing coast to coast, and like this other couple, they were doing the 5K. So while we were waiting for our canoe ride, which we were all going to bond over anyways, because we were all getting the same canoe, I offered bracelets because I had one that said coast to coast on it. And then I had the 5K tag and a 5K themed bracelet. So I just started chatting with them, and then I offered the bracelets, and they said yes. And it was that easy. And then when I got into my corral, I got there late. If you watched my video, late. I got there when the race started because I had time before my corral went off, which did mean I was in the back of my corral, putting me up against the fencing of the next corral. I started chatting with these two girls that were in the corral behind me, and I gave them bracelets. And it was just really sweet because they were very appreciative to get them, and we kind of got to like chat and hang out until my corral moved. So I never saw them again, but it was such a fun little like touch point. And then the last time I gave out bracelets was on the course, which was the best part. I was in like a Facebook group, and someone had posted that they really hoped that they would get to do bracelet trading. And she had also posted what she was wearing for the half marathon. She had very distinct leggings that she'd posted in the group, so it was going to be easier to find her if I were to cross paths with her. And amazingly enough, running through Adventureland, I look over, I see the leggings, and I go, "Are you the girl looking for a friendship bracelet?" And she was running with two other girls, and I was like, "I have some." And just in the middle of our half marathon, I'm like running with these bracelets attached to my running belt, and I'm trying to unclip them. And I just gave them all bracelets while we were like in the middle of mile 4. Okay, and like the last thing I want to touch on, just some advice if you are interested in doing Run Disney. The number one thing I want to say is don't get your hopes up too quickly, because registration for Run Disney races is getting more and more competitive. If you get your heart set on the idea that you're going to run Princess in February of 2027 and you don't even get to register because it sells out before you're out of the waiting room, that can like really crush. And so I think it's like a hopeful want and not something that you should be like, I have to do it this moment. If you want to just go through general registration and you think jumping on your computer at 10 a.m. the day registration opens guarantees you a spot into these races, it doesn't. I did not get into Wine and Dine when I tried to register this week. I didn't get out of the waiting room. I waited an hour and 20 minutes when registration. I was right there when registration opened, like you're supposed to be. So like I was in the first seat of people being able to register, but I waited an hour and 20 minutes, never made it out of the waiting room, and I just watched the race sell out. Don't get your hopes up if general registration is the only way you plan to do a Run Disney race. It's actually really hard to get one of those spots because they're so competitive, it's so popular, and they do need to limit it. Another piece of advice is don't go into it under-trained, but also don't expect to PR if you've done this distance before. Don't think because you've run 6 miles, you can just convert that to a half marathon. I saw that a lot. People thought that they didn't really need to train for that distance jump and they were doing the challenge or they were doing all the races that weekend. And that's just a really good way to like wreck your body and disappoint yourself. So if you're going to sign up for a 10K and you've never done a 10K before, if you're going to sign up for a half marathon, you've never run a half marathon before, take the training period seriously and actually do it. You don't need to run 13 miles before race day, but I do think you need to make it to 10. And then you can squeak out the extra 5K, but you need to know that you can run 10 miles below the pace of the cutoff. Don't just assume that you're going to be in a corral 2 or 3 ahead of the cutoff. You might get put in that last corral, and if you didn't train to stay above a 16-minute mile for 10 miles, you'll probably get swept. And if you didn't train at all, your body probably won't let you do this because it's really hard to run a half marathon. And I also think that this isn't a place for you to try to PR. There are some people who are going to run in Corral A and they are going to race, and someone is going to win these races, but it's not about winning at all. It's about enjoying the experience. I really enjoyed running and I didn't want to stop running. I was so glad my body was doing it, but I also wasn't trying to like rush the experience, at least while I was in the park. So I stopped for photos and I, checked out if I wanted to stop for characters, and I wasn't trying to like hit a time goal. I just wanted to enjoy the race. Don't try to get a record. Just go out and enjoy it. You paid so much money to be here. Why finish it so quickly? I think the last piece of advice I have is just don't feel like you have to do this. Disneyland was easier for me because I stayed somewhat on East Coast time. So these early morning wake ups were like normal early instead of early. And I do know that come fall, when I go run in Florida, you're waking up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not a normal time to wake up and start your day, and you stand around, and there's so much more to a Disney race because of how many people are doing it and all the logistics of running in an amusement park. It takes a lot out of you to do Run Disney because of the timing and the process. So this isn't for everybody, and it's not the only way to run a half marathon, and it's not the only way to have fun at Disney. You don't have to run a Run Disney race just to prove your love of Disney and prove you're a runner. Like, it's not for everybody, so don't feel like everybody's doing it. You knew we had to finish this in the car, because what's a vlog without being in the car? And all that's really left is the question of like, so what's next? What is next is probably a local half marathon this spring or summer. Just kind of like keep staying in shape. It felt so good to run a half marathon. I'd love to get back into the shape I used to be in, where I was just always in half marathon shape. And then I signed up to fundraise for the organization To Write Love on Her Arms. And they are a not-for-profit that focuses on depression, self-harm, and suicide. So when I saw that they were an option as a charity for Wine and Dine, when I started thinking I might want to do this race and getting general registration would probably be difficult, I immediately sent them an email to be like, I definitely want to do Wine and Dine for you guys. About a week later, they sent an email to whoever had been on their waiting list to be like, we've confirmed we have bibs for all the Disney races and we'll send registration links next week. So when I didn't get into Wine and Dine general registration, I wasn't that worried. So then on Wednesday, the registration link came through and I got it, and I'm officially like running for To Write Love on Her Arms. So here we go. That's what's next.